Hi, how are you today?
Good. I'm very excited to hear about how I can get a flat tummy.
Yes, it's January. It's still, we're still in that kind of mode of like, let's sort of transform ourselves a little bit, and people always ask me this question. Most clients, I'll say, what sort of area do you want to tackle? And this will be yoga clients or personal training, and they're always the stomach.
Yeah, it's always the tummy, isn't it?
It's always there.
It's just kind of, when you've got the muffin top and you just got the kind of front wobble, it's just not a good look.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people struggle with, and it tends to be because we carry a lot of fat there. So, today it's 10 ways to a flat stomach. So definitely, if you've been feeling lumpy and bumpy around that midsection, and you feel you've tried everything, I say that with quotation marks there, okay? You can imagine I'm doing that. Well, you're not alone, because a recent study found 62% of women feel that is an area that they want to change. I actually thought it might be more.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised by those numbers as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I've been naturally lucky to have a flat stomach. But some people, I have other areas I complain about. But some people, it's definitely where they feel there's problem there. And it's like, it can basically come from your diet. Like that, normally a flabby sort of stomach comes from poor nutrition, normally.
I'll just mention as well, I mean, this isn't just for women, obviously.
Of
a lot
course,
of men, I think most men, they would probably say, oh yeah, my stomach.
Absolutely.
Or arms or
and
something,
that is
maybe
where,
I don't know about stomach. So.
And that's the key thing, because most women are called, pear-shaped, which is what I would classify myself as, where you carry weight on the bottom half, right? Like on the hips and the thigh area on the bottom, right? That's what most women are. Most men carry weight on the midsection. And this is all to do with our hormones again. So it's to do with women having childbearing hips and having estrogen in their body, they tend to carry weight in the bottom half, and men having testosterone carrying weight on the stomach. So if you're a woman or a man and you've got this, it can be, especially if you're a woman, because it's not that normal for women to carry fat there, that can then be your diet that's doing that to you. Or maybe you've had a baby and it's excess fat. You have to think about, is this something new? Like, have you always had a flabby stomach? Have you been really bad with your diet? Have you been doing no exercise? So before you even try to attempt the 10 ways to get a flat stomach, let's establish why it's there in the first place, yeah? So have a think about that for a second there, why you've got it. So 10 ways to a flat stomach, some little tips for you today. Number one's quite surprising, maybe eat after exercising. And what that basically means is the best time to have your largest meal of the day, as long as it's a reasonable size and not full on feast, it's from breakfast, okay? So the best time to exercise, scientifically they say, is first thing in the morning. They also say that you can exercise on a full stomach, you'll still burn calories and you'll have more energy to actually exercise. However, if you're really looking to blast belly fat, try and exercise on an empty stomach early, like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, like that. Because that way you're burning off your stored fat. So we all have stored fat. Even if you're like super thin, you'll still have fat storage somewhere inside of you. So if you were to exercise without any fuel, you will burn that fat instead. But then that means to be very careful, because then when you go and have your breakfast, make sure it's not more than you would normally have. You don't want to overcompensate. Well, I ran 5K so I can have a full buffet. No, it's got to be back to what you would normally have had. So, try and think of it like that. So if your goal is also to control your hunger, so like let's say you're trying to get the flat stomach, but you want to control your hunger, again, try and stick to food like protein. So low fat yogurts like Greek yogurt, none of these added sugars and flavors. Yeah. Go for like the Greek. It's pretty good, and the natural. You can add your own fruit to that. That's a really nice protein sort of staple. As well as like cottage cheese. That's a really nice low calorie, low fat, high protein product that you can have with salad and things like that. So that's a good thing to have after exercising. So if you're exercising in the evening, after, you could have like cottage cheese with some salad as your dinner, if you like. Okay, so that's sort of one way of doing it. So another way to do it is, I always feel that, I'm a big believer in this, you should eat how you feel. So although we sort of say you should have 3 meals a day, or some people like to have 5, do what works best for you. So like, for example, I like to eat when I'm hungry. So it's like, if someone's like, you should eat. Well, but I'm not hungry. Sometimes I definitely think you should eat breakfast no matter what, if you're hungry or not. But throughout the day, if you're really not wanting a particular food or something, don't force yourself to have it. It's excess calories that you probably don't want anyway, and you're not going to feel so good about yourself. So, don't be doing that. According to Purdue University in the United States, the biggest problem that we actually have with our noshing, shall we call it, behaviour, is that snacks have become meals and meals have become like feasts, basically. So over time, over the last 30 years, snack sizes have increased. So they used to be about 360 calories, now they're like 580. So like a snack, you know, has really, like, say a cupcake with a hot chocolate, that's like a meal. Like the calorie equivalent of it is pretty ridiculous. So, and the same with the food, like, you know, the portion control as well. Like what used to be a small dinner has now become this huge dinner. It's got extras, it's got this and that. So the calories are just getting completely out of whack. So you need to eat how you feel. For me, I'm a small eater, and that's what I like to do. I don't like to be forced into having massive meals just because everyone else is. So no matter how healthy you are, you have to listen to yourself in that sense. And you know, along the terms of eating, you're thinking 10 ways to a flat stomach. It's all about food. It's eat after exercising, eat how you feel, but also you actually should eat fat to slim down. Any idea what I mean by that?
I have kind of heard this, and I guess for a lot of people, like you're saying, we just mentioned yogurts, for example, low-fat yogurts. Like, low-fat just doesn't mean good for you or better for you.
That's right. Your three main food groups that you must consume are carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Now, when we say fat, we're not talking about lard or butter. We're talking about essential fat that you must have in your body. So, a lot is right when she says a lot of the low-fat products on the market, like low-fat yogurt, has a lot of extra hidden nasties in it. When I say to eat low-fat yogurt, what I actually mean is natural yogurt. That's a habit of mine. I mean natural Greek yogurt, the white, plain yogurt with no fruit and no sugar. And you can buy the full-fat variety of that, right? So what's quite important is that studies have found that eating fat, essential fats, can actually help you become slim. So the Institute of Medicine has recommended that fatty food actually makes up 20% of our daily diet, okay? So when I say fatty food, I mean, for example, like nuts. There's essential fat in nuts. Avocado is another one. People say to me, avocado's fattening. Avocado is rich in vitamins and it has essential fats in it, but it's good for you. Same as like omega-3, which is in oily fish. People associate oily fish with like fat, but it's good for your skin and your hair and your nails. Again, everything in moderation is absolutely fine. So to talk about the right fats, so monosaturated fats, they're also called MUFAs, monosaturated fats. Okay, like I said, nuts, avocados, healthy oils like your virgin olive oil and things like that. What you want to avoid is the nasty saturated fat. So not the monosaturated. So saturated fat comes in things like biscuits and cakes and cookies, also known as trans fats, which are really quite dangerous. And trans fats, I'm going to talk about this in a show all on its own because it's quite an interesting topic. No one has a clue really what trans fats are until you look at a wrapper. And if you see a wrapper and it says contains hydrogenated oil, that is a trans fat. There's certain words, and it's chemicals, it's things you don't understand. So you think, oh, I don't really care, I'll just eat it. That's actually quite bad for you. So they are the things that you want to avoid. But you should definitely take on the nuts and the avocado, like I've suggested, to help keeping you feel slim, because it's part of your diet to have essential fat. So, you know, don't worry about it too much. So you can go ahead and have, you know, a steak. Some people say to me, steak is bad. I'm like, steak? It's protein. Just have it once a week, though. That's enough. It's got iron in it. It's really good for you. So try that and just don't have it lumped with lots of chips and all the rest of it.
And,
it's not that anything is particularly bad. Something that I really am quite passionate about is calorie counting that should not be done, basically. So step away from calorie counting. Like, some people get really fixated with this. And again, that goes back to the same thing. I'm going to give you a breakfast cereal bar that's 200 calories, but it's full of sugar and trans fat. Or I'm going to give you a bowl of porridge, here I go again, with 200 calories. What is better for you?
The porridge, hands down.
The porridge, but it's the same number of calories, right? So although I have spoken before about calories in, calories out to lose weight, which is true, if two people consume the same number of calories and one ate the high trans fat diet and one had the organic diet, technically they should lose the same amount of weight because the calories are the same. But the person on the organic diet is going to feel better and look better and have a longer lifespan as well as a longer healthy diet. Whereas the person on the sort of like restricted, calorie controlled, I must have this cereal bar type diet is going to fall off of that eventually because they've plumped themselves full of fat and sugar. So, you know where I'm going with this one, right? It's counting calories is also quite hard to do. If you're at work and someone offers you something, how do you know how many calories is in it?
Yeah.
But it's also stressful. Imagine having been a slave to a number all the time. Right, I had this. Right, I had that. I have to add that up. Oh gosh, I have to have this. It's not really...
It's when you want to live your life by,
yeah, it's not an acceptable way to live. It's quite antisocial in a way as well.
Mm.
Whereas instead, I mean, I never count calories. I know what calories are in food. Like I could tell you a banana has 100 calories, for example. But for me, it's more about science from the side of like, what is that product made up of? Not how many calories does it contain. So, you know, on the sort of thread of speaking about calories and these things that I'm always whinging about, it's carbs as well. You know, carbs are not the enemy.
Yeah.
A lot of us think they are.
Carbs are your friends. Not all of them. Some of them.
Yes, some of them. And in the right way. You know, me, I'm always a carb in the morning person. I think that's definitely the way. You know, Atkins and Dukan diets really concern me a lot because, you know, they're low carb. I just cannot imagine the stress it puts on the body to follow a diet like that. Some people, they're desperate to lose weight, and I understand that, but like I've said in previous shows, it's a short-term thing that if you go on these diets, they're called crash diets for a reason. You will crash at the end of it, and you probably will put the weight back on. So it's not always a great thing to do. Carbs, I've said already, carbs, fat and protein are part of your diet, so you cannot give them up. And they're in a lot of things anyway. Carbs are in bananas and apples and all these things, so you can't really hide from them. If you're trying to watch your weight, then I would definitely suggest cutting down on carbs. But in the day, not in the morning, when you need that energy for the rest of the day. So I've said it before, right? Cut the carbs from the night time. Anything sort of post 3 o'clock, I would say, is time to forget about having carbs. Because they will turn inside of your body into glucose, which is sugar, which turns to fat. So it's best to try and avoid that. And instead, just fill up with lots of veg and fruit and stuff like that instead. That is not the pure carbohydrate found in bread and pasta and cereals. Okay, protein shakes are quite interesting as well. This is number 6 actually on our 10 ways to a flat stomach. So if you don't want to be sitting eating full chickens and things like that, you can down a nice little shake in terms of protein. So whey protein is... You're like looking at me, you think this is to do with bodybuilding, right?
Well, I mean, protein, you associate them with protein shakes with bodybuilders because you see the guys in the gyms with them. You don't really know when it comes to female consumption of it. I don't know many people who do drink them, but I'm intrigued because I think that for me, actually, I was thinking this just recently, that shakes may be a fantastic way to get some extra protein after being in the gym, because it's quite hard to do.
Exactly.
So I'm actually thinking myself that's something I'm interested in.
Yeah, you should always, like I've said to Laura before, like after doing exercise, you have 30 minutes to replace your body with things that you've lost. And in those 30 minutes, it's really important to have some protein. So you can have milk, you can have yogurt, you can have, I wouldn't really have cheese, but But that's why you'll see guys in a gym drinking protein shakes, because they're at the gym, 30 minutes is that window, quick. Give me this. Why? Because in that 30 minutes, your muscles need to repair and they'll become bigger. They'll still repair and become bigger over the rest of the day, but not as much. So that's why if you think, why are these guys drinking these shakes in the gym? It's because there's a window of opportunity there, 30 minutes. So a protein shake is basically made of whey protein. Whey is from, it's actually curd from yogurt. Whey is a natural product. What I don't like is that nowadays people are drinking these protein shakes that are pumped full of chemicals, and it's actually quite worrying because there's no regulator on them. So no one is monitoring what is in these products, these powders. You know, you see these powders, right? Yeah. So that for me is an absolute no. Any personal trainer wouldn't recommend that because you don't know what's in it. It can be quite harmful to your system. Even though you see gyms selling them, they're pretty dangerous. You can buy whey protein in its own form though, in organic. It's just a powder, but you can buy it on its own. So you can add that into a smoothie or a milk shake of your own. Whey protein is used to bulk up elderly people, people who've been sick. It's also used in the Slim Fast products. It's a very common product to bulk up, but bulk up muscle, not fat. So when we're talking about losing belly fat, this is a great little tool to use. And I really do love whey protein powder, as long as it's none of those nasty chemicals. You don't want any of this flavored stuff or, you know, there's a lot of shakes now. There's even been a range made for women to kind of like promote, you know, marketing towards women. So it's not just about big bulky guys. But ultimately, you know, if you don't want to have whey, soy is also a wonderful natural protein. So you can get soy milk and you could use that instead. So just get some protein in Definitely post-gym, but even if it's not post-gym, you could have it as a snack in the afternoon just to give you a bit of a protein to tide you over, shall we say. So that's number 6 on our list. Number 7, in keeping with your protein, it's a good idea to actually lift weights to lose weight, right? We spoke about this before. If you lift weights, you actually build up muscle, which then means the more muscle you have, the more calories your body burns, so you will burn off fat. So it's a good suggestion to lift some light weights a few times a week, and you can do that just to, you know, give yourself a little bit extra definition, and in the long run it will actually make you lose weight. So we've spoken about, you know, obviously the protein side. So number 8 is actually quite closely linked to that. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition suggests that we should definitely tuck into dairy if you're trying to lose belly fat. Belly fat, I know I keep going on about it's Greek yogurt, but it's really good for getting dairy and protein in one, and it really takes down fat from your stomach, so it's a good thing to have. Basically, it releases a compound called calcitrol, which increases the production of cells in your body to break down fat. So it's a little bit of a science for you there, but it'll basically take down your stomach to be leaner. So it's a good thing to do. So definitely tuck into some nice milk. Make sure it's low-fat milk, though. Don't have any cream. But definitely stick to yogurt. And cottage cheese is a nice one. You should definitely limit sweeteners. Okay, so number 9 in our flat belly list here, limit sweeteners. Because again, anything that's a little bit suspicious isn't really good for your body. Try and just stick to organic and raw products, and you can't go wrong. I love honey. Honey is a raw product. Sweeteners have more of a hormonal effect on your body, which will make you reach for worse options, shall we say. So they can definitely affect your belly fat. And they play a lot with your blood sugar. Blood sugar spikes can release chemicals and hormones that will store on your belly as fat. There have been a lot of studies actually done that have found that those who drink, like Diet Coke for example, tend to actually be overweight compared to those who didn't. So definitely think about cutting that out. And number 10, this is really important. This is to avoid fat pills. Fat loss pills, should I say. This is something that concerns me a lot, actually, because I've heard, especially in the UK, a lot of people are doing this. They're taking these fat loss pills. Young girls are doing this as well, and they can be purchased without any sort of trace, and it's not a good thing. They're pretty much a waste of money because you have no idea what's in them. It could be a placebo. It could have nothing in it, and you just think it does. It could have something dangerous in it. If there are ones that are, you know, dangerous, they could affect your heart or anything like that. It's quite worrying, actually. So a lot of them do carry quite scary risks. So the truth is that fat loss caused by any supplement is minor, and it's probably even less significant in people who have a substantial amount of weight to lose. So the best and only way to recover your abs permanently is to focus on what you eat and how you exercise. So that's the only 2 things you can do. And if you exercise well and you eat well, you will strip away belly fat. There is no reason you wouldn't.
It's all about being clean, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It makes
and I know
such
it
a
sounds
big difference.
It probably sounds a bit like, oh, you're
but
always
if you
saying
want
that,
it, but if you want it, you've got to do it. That's just the way it is.
And it is going back to that whole thing. You are what you eat. If you eat well, you look well, you feel well.
Get those belly, get the abs. Abs of steel.
Abs of steel.
You're kind of looking ahead to summer now.
Absolutely.
So,
see, that's
absolutely.
it. See, absolutely. I didn't even know I did that.
Ab jokes is coming your way. Well, certainly food for thought, and
I hope. Well, I definitely hope that's given some of you some pointers anyway to think about getting rid of that belly fat.
Yeah.
Give us a little text if you want to, if you've got any suggestions or what you think about any of that. I'd love to hear from you.
Get in touch with us 9126 and at QF Radio 2. We do love to hear from you. In the meantime, we'll see you next week.
Yes, I'll see you then.
Have a good weekend.
You too.